And welcome to Sandbrook Park here at Zen HQ. I'm Mark Howarth, Head of Trading and Partner Experience, and we're here for our second instalment of the Partner Playback. I'm pleased to welcome our Managing Director, Steve Warburton, and Andy Sayle, who is our Connectivity Portfolio Manager. Welcome, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Yeah, thank you.
So this is, as I said, the second in the instalment. At the end of this, there'll be a survey. We had loads of great feedback after the first one. We've listened to that and some of the topics that you as our partners would like to for us to talk about today. It's been about 3 months since we last had one of these. We're trying to do one a quarter to be more engaged with you as our partners. So, Steve, what's been happening since our last session?
Yeah, thanks, Mark. And yeah, welcome everyone to today's webinar. So first of all, I just want to start with a thank you. So I think since the webinar we held in February, we've been doing quite a bit of work on our network and quite a lot of IP renumbering work. And I know that's caused some disruption for our partners, so I just want to say a big thank you for your patience, for your cooperation, working with our operations and partner experience managers through that period. I'm pleased to say that's now concluded. We've got no further plans to do any more IP numbering work on our network. So yeah, just a big thank you for that work. In terms of updates, Mark, to answer your question, so there's been quite a lot going on. So firstly, I'm absolutely delighted to say that we launched our 1.2 gig and 1.8 gig FTTP speed profiles on Monday this week. First wholesale in the UK, I think, to launch those services. So yeah, really pleased with that. And Andy, if you want to share a little bit more about the actual services themselves.
Yeah, thanks, Steve, and thanks for inviting me along again today. Yeah, 1.8, 1.2. So it's same OpenReach FTTP that everyone's familiar with. On these newer speeds, we have a new ONT that's installed by OpenReach engineer. So if it's a regrade, an OpenReach engineer will come along and swap out the ONT for the new faster one. It's got a 2.5 gigabit per second port. New install, it's exactly the same as any other FTTP install, and they'll put the new ONT in day one. It's 1.8 gig, 1.2 gig, still GPON, so it's still the same technology underneath. In all of our tests, a 1.8 gig service has throughput of around 1.6, 1.62 gigabits per second. You might have seen some of the BT brands advertising those kind of speeds. They're using the same technology underneath. I think there's only really EE out there at the moment, so if you were to launch a product on the back of those, you'd be one of the first ISPs in the country to do so. I don't think there's anyone marketing that in the business space either at the moment, so you could opportunity to really stand out in the business market with those speed profiles.
That's great, thanks Andy. So yeah, great news on 1.2 and on 1.8. And in terms of other things we've got plans, so we've got 4G backup. I'm pleased to say it's continuing to make really good progress. So the timescale that I shared back in February of end of August for that delivery, we're still on track to hit that date. And as we approach a point where we're looking for some trialists to start to utilise the service, we'll get in touch and welcome our partners' input on that development. And I think the final thing to say on updates is. I'm pleased to say we've been adding some additional resources into the team, into the development team, as one-touch switching works come to an end, and we've been able to redeploy some resource. So I guess two things. Firstly, the Ethernet development work that we shared again back in February, we'll start to make some progress on that in the coming months. And then also we've assigned some dedicated resource to do some smaller pieces of development work for us. So things like advanced install, SSRAMs, there's a number of smaller development pieces of work that we want to get done. So we're going to have some dedicated resource to help us deliver that. So I'm hoping that the next update around August time, we'll be able to share a number of smaller pieces of work that we've got delivered for our partners.
Cool, thank you, Steve. And in terms of some other bits and pieces that have been going on in the interim, I just want another thank you really to our partners around the involvement regarding Net Promoter Score. So that closed, the window closed probably around February, March time. We had the most partners fill out the survey. We try and do it at least twice a year, maybe 3 times a year to get feedback. It's vitally important to hear from you guys in terms of what you want to see, what improvements need to be made, and that's fed throughout the whole entire business. With the increase in participation, it shows that we've got a really engaged partner base. Our score this time was plus 59, so across industry, it's much less than that in terms of a net promoter score. The partner experience managers and the account managers for those partners that did complete the Net Promoter Survey, there'll be a "You Said We Did" activity, which will be specific to the feedback you've provided, which I think is something different this time in terms of just throwing a blanket over it and saying some improvements will be made. There'll be bespoke improvements based on the feedback you guys provided, which I think is brilliant. And I just encourage all of our partners to provide feedback when asked for it. We can only make improvements when we're told about them, and the challenges that you face maybe day to day we're unaware of. So it's vitally important to have that feedback loop with Net Promoter Score. And the final thing in terms of this is we're looking to launch CSAT, which is a much smaller feedback window, which will allow us to, every interaction you have, to provide feedback around how that's happened, if that's with our order management team or our technical support team. So please fill out that feedback. It allows us to improve the experience we're providing you guys as our partners. Anything else to add there, Steve, in terms of Net Promoter?
No, just a big thank you, like you say, Matt. So thanks for the feedback, and we're determined to act on it to continue to improve. We won't rest on our laurels. We want to keep getting better. So yeah, thanks so much for that.
Perfect. So let's have a look at what else has been happening since our last playback session. So why don't we start with something small and the announcement that was made by BT Group a couple of days ago in terms of the 2025 switch off. So I'd like to get both Steve and Andy's view on what that announcement means and what the stance is for Zen.
Yeah, so yeah, like I say, Matt, a small bit of news last Thursday when BT PLC published a latest report. So yeah, they announced the plan to change the switch-off date, so from December 2025 out to January 2027. And it's worth stressing the main driver behind that move of date was vulnerable customers. So they've had some feedback from across industry actually that it's obviously very, very important that in the event that services migrated, that telecare services can remain working for those customers. So that's been the main driver behind that change. So from a Zen perspective, we remain committed to that December 2025 date. The drivers that were there previously remain the case. So that network is very old. The engineers are retiring. It's becoming more difficult to maintain. It's becoming more challenging to obtain parts. So it's really important that we all move off that network onto the latest IP network. And the kind of reasons to do it as well remain as they were. So it's more cost effective to take Sajira or FTTP services than it is to remain on copper. The actual underlying technology is more reliable. So we see about a 60% reduction in fault rate on FTTP versus copper. So again, that doesn't change. So in terms of the Zen plan, we remain very focused on helping our partners migrate all their circuits by December of 2025. So that's the plan. Anything more you want to add there, Andy?
Yeah, just reiterate the point around it. The extension being there to ensure that vulnerable customers can be treated safely. I'm sure a lot of our partners will be aware, but at the end of 2023, the government raised some concerns around how whether vulnerable customers were being looked after as well as they could be. And so DCIT introduced a new charter, the Telecoms Charter, to ensure that all the big providers or any other providers that signed up to that charter would follow a common set of best practice to ensure that vulnerable customers were treated appropriately and that everybody was safe during the switch off. So this was to ensure things like telecare alarm systems continue to work in the switch during the switchover to all IP products. That charter has some additional steps that service providers need to ensure have happened, which takes a little bit more time. And so the migration process for vulnerable customers is a little bit slower than it was previously. And to reflect that, that's where this 13 months extension has come from, to ensure that everybody can follow that charter appropriately and make sure that all the steps are completed and customers are safe without being rushed into 2025. So that extra year is really to protect vulnerable customers and critical national infrastructure as well. But absolutely, our intention is to migrate all standard lines, if you will, all the simple lines before the end of 2025, so no real change there. Our vulnerable customers, we will aim to migrate them safely in that time frame, but if we can't, it gives us an extra year. And likewise for partners with vulnerable customers as well, there's that extra time period, but our target is still the end of 2025. And yeah, it's around I guess that is balancing protecting vulnerable customers and critical national infrastructure to ensure that they're migrated safely, but also getting them onto the new products as quickly as possible, because they're going to that's also going to have benefits for them through the increased reliability, increased speed, and making sure that they're less likely to see faults. I think there's 60% lower faults on FTTP compared to copper-based products. So that also goes to protecting those same vulnerable customers.
I think the other thing that's interesting in that update, whilst a lot of the talk's been about the stop sell, is that I think Openreach announced they've now reached 13.8 million premises for FTTP. They had a record million premises added in a quarter, so they're currently going at 4 million a year. I mean, the build rate is really impressive now. It's really fast. So they remain focused on 25 million by December 26. So I think that's the other thing to say, is that the actual coverage of FTTP is increasing, thereby making it easier to be able to switch to the latest technology. So.
Yeah, I think just for in addition, is around how Zen can support you as our partners. I've been working and had a number of calls over the last probably 18 months, and in most recently is having the data available and providing that to you as our partners through account management and the partner experience team. I held a call as late as yesterday in terms of going through plans with partners, so please do reach out to either me directly or your account manager or the partner experience team in terms of that support that Zen can provide you. The partner I spoke to yesterday had every single possible cohort broken down, just what Andy was talking about there, doing the easier moves first, allowing them then to sort of do the more vulnerable customers later down that track, and we can help with that at Zen. We can break down your install base with us, show the cohorts, show the migration paths, and which would be the easiest to navigate, and also share how we've done that here at Zen. I know Andy, in terms of how we've done it for our own base of customers, it's been a huge success, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's worked really well. So we've migrated over the last year or so tens of thousands of customers, of our consumer customers and business customers, and obviously working with partners, lots of lines as well. We can share all the learnings we've had through that process. We've honed the materials, the communication assets that we've sent to our customers over that period, and we can share what's worked for us and what hasn't worked as well. So we're very open to doing that. And Jodie McGovern, who's been sat in this chair previously on some of these webinars, is would happily join in on any of those conversations. Jodie runs our all IP migration program, as well as looking after all of our voice and UC products. So she's an absolute expert that we can bring in, and she manages that program, so she can say exactly what has worked for us. So we're really please, as Mark says, reach out, because we're more than happy to help as much as we can, and it's a benefit to all of us.
Yeah, I think we're also looking at ways how we can support our partner base. So very much just an idea, Steve and Andy and I were talking about this morning, is how we can highlight where FTTP is available for you in your install base, so that you can obviously make that switch. I think we've got an actual live question now on this subject, so I think I'll probably fire this directly at Andy. Don't look too nervous. It's in terms of where there isn't that availability for Sagira and FTTP, and would we look to potentially bring out a replacement product for ADSL? And that question's come from Matt Nicholson. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So SOTAP is a copper-based product that Openreach have, which we could use to deliver ADSL. So that's on our roadmap. We will be delivering that. The ADSL and WLR stop sell doesn't kick in until March next year. So we've got nearly a year, so 10 months of being able to provide ADSL in its current form. It's our intention to make sure that SOTAP is available to our partners next year, and so that there's continuity in being able to provide ADSL. I guess that it's around about 2% of the UK where SOTAP's available today, so that's areas where there's no Sagira or no FTTP. We expect that to get a little bit smaller, because with the FTTP rollout, a lot of those ADSL lines today are sort of exchange-only lines in city centres. They're areas that Openreach are targeting with FTTP, and also are at rural areas. So there's been a lot of government funding through BDUK to reach those not spots. So fibre will become there. So that 2% will decrease, and so you'll be less reliant on having slow tap. But we will make it available to partners, so they can serve the whole of the nation.
Cool. And I guess it's worth saying at this point as well that do bring your questions in. We'd have a Q&A session with myself, Steve, and Andy. So type your questions and send them over, and we'll do our best to answer them. Just in terms of the switch off and in terms of the support we can provide, it's just to really underline that the partners we have worked with who have been open and said, yes, we need support, we need a plan. It is about breaking it down into sort of bite-sized chunks in order to break off piece by piece as you go through it. I think the extension does allow for vulnerable customers. We can highlight those to you if needs be as well, if you've got the WLR service with us. So we're working with our suppliers in order to get that information for you. We have got a raft of information in spreadsheets and reports that we can share with you guys. So I guess my view on this is data is key and is king in enabling you to formulate that plan. I'm just looking now at some other questions. One question's come in terms of just highlight around 4G backup, maybe another one for Andy. What will that look like and feel like in terms of an experience for our customers in an ordering process? Is that something they can add, as part of their order journey for broadband, or how do we see that working?
Yeah, really good question. So 4G backup, we've sort of been piloting that with our direct business customers in small volumes for a little while now, and we're going to give partners the tools to be able to recreate a similar experience to we've created for those direct customers with using the same supplier with the same system. So any partners that want 4G backup, we would onboard for our 4G backup product, supply SIM cards. When placing a broadband order or modifying an existing broadband service, you could effectively check a box to say you want to add 4G backup. You give us the details of the SIM card, so you pick a SIM card up off a pile or from your inventory and say, I want to use this SIM card with this broadband service. We'll activate it, and it'll be linked to that broadband service then. So if the primary broadband service goes down, the 4G service would automatically pass the traffic. It'll be linked in our network, as well as you being able to link it on the CPE. There'll be each SIM card that you activate with a broadband service will have a small amount of data. All of those SIM cards together will form a pool, and so if any service does fail over to 4G, it has the access to the full pool of data. It's exactly what we've done internally with our small number of customers. That pool, that approach has meant that costs are as low as possible. If you do use more data than is in the pool, you just pay per gigabyte for the additional data. Or you can also add bolt-ons, so you can add on some additional data for a SIM card. So if you've got a customer that's got a particularly persistent fault or something that's a little bit more complicated, you could add a bolt-on for that customer, and that will give extra data to protect you from those over-usage charges down the road. So bolt-on data is a little bit cheaper than paying in afterwards. So yeah, it'd be really simple. The intention is that you'll be able to see the data that a customer's used, obviously, so you'll know when to add a bolt-on. And the fail-over-fail-back would happen in our network, as well as you needing to configure your own CPE to do the same thing.
And another question's come in. So it is in terms of that the 4G situation, but is 4G something that Zen are exploring for WLR replacement? Is a question that's come in.
Yeah, that's another really good question. So we are looking at 4G/5G as a replacement for WLR, particularly for ADSL. So yeah, I guess the challenges on that is mobile data. Everyone will know it's a little bit more expensive than fixed line data, so it's on a like-for-like basis. It probably costs a bit more. But one of the other challenges that we see is that those WLR lines that are left, those ADSL lines, there is a decent proportion of those which are in rural areas, and the mobile network coverage is not necessarily fantastic in those areas. Not always the case, but so I guess what we're saying is, I think that's something we're investigating and probably will bring to market at some point. Although we think SOTAT will be there probably ahead of that and give a more cost-effective option, albeit with probably less bandwidth, and would serve more people. So there's horses for courses, and it's something that we're absolutely think fits into and has a place. Yeah.
Cheers, Andy. We've got another question. It is quite specific in terms of FTTP. So it's an anonymous question. It says, are there any options for customers who have FTTP in their area, fairly close within, say, 100 metres, but BT will not connect to this premises? Again, it's quite a specific example. I don't know if you're aware of anything like this.
Yeah. There's a couple of things. So OpenReach do have an FTTP on demand product. We don't offer that today. Primarily, it's quite expensive and quite complicated. So it's a bespoke build. They build the network, and you, as the or the end customer, ultimately pays for that network build. So it's quite expensive. The other option is OpenReach are developing a service that they called FTTP Locate or Fiber Locate, which is where they're not sure whether their network covers a premises or not. They'll give a new flag on the availability checker, and you can place an order. They will go away and investigate whether they can fill in, where they can actually provide service there. So this is for those sort of edge case properties that are on the periphery of their network, and they can check whether they can extend the network or whether they can reach a premises. So that's something OpenReach is developing at the moment, and as it does become ready, we will make available to partners. But that's that's penciled in for this year with OpenReach. It'll be something that partners would get access to, probably without Zen having to do anything. It's just a different flag on the availability checker. You place your order as normal. The difference being that in some of those cases, the order would end up being rejected because after that initial investigation, they find that they can't provide it. But hopefully, more often than not, it'll be a yes, and we can take the order through.
Cheers, Andy. Thank you for that. We've got a question in terms of one such switching. And obviously another announcement in terms of a slight delay to that being pushed out till September. Steve, what's the impact on that for Zen, for our partners, for our customers? What's your view on that being pushed out to September?
Yeah, so one such switching has been delayed a few times, unfortunately, across industry. So latest date is September, and I do think that will be a date that is hit. Actually, I think it's looking like industry is on track to hit that September date. So to begin with, it'll be consumer that applies to. We're ready. I'm pleased to say we're ready for that September launch. We've also got the right data available in our APIs and our portals for any partners that are serving consumer premises. So if that's something you're doing today, you should be able to access the data you need in the portal API. If you need any specific one-off reports or any additional data, then just get in touch with your account manager or your partner experience manager, and they can provide that for you. I appreciate a lot of our partners are providing services to business premises, and I think the indication, and you can jump in on this, Andy, is that probably late 2025 is when we might see one such switch arrive for business premises. We are planning to do a webinar with Totsco, who are the kind of body set up to handle one such switching, probably in the next 3 to 6 months. So that'll be an opportunity for all of our partners to bring along any questions or any thoughts around one such switching. But yeah, ready for September, and as I say, in a good place on that. If you anything else, Andy?
Yeah, I agree with all of that. We're in a really good place. Really strongly encourage anyone that hasn't already done so to register with Totsco. Just go to their website. If you just put Totsco in Google, it'll come up straight away. It's easy to find. They'll send you all the information. You can get onboarded in order to be able, if you are serving consumers, to be so that you're ready for September, and that's so you can communicate with the other providers via the Totsco hub. They'll send you a weekly newsletter on anything that's changed or any updates or how things are progressing. They have a really good blog as well, which has got lots of information around how things have progressed, and in the newsletter there's a little bit from the CEO of Totsco each week around, I think it's called Paul Babbury. on the progress. So yeah, absolutely register on the TopScore website and keep abreast of everything that's happening. They're certainly the experts, and they'll make sure that you stay in line with the Ofcom regulations.
Cool, thank you very much. This one's not really product related at all. It's more around probably directed for you, Steve, really. So, as managing director of Partner and our consumer part of the business, what are the biggest challenges you feel you're going to face for the rest of this year? Sort of what's in your in tray in terms of things that you want to achieve?
Yeah. I think good question. Yeah, really good question. So I think clearly, we, from both a partner and consumer perspective, we're very keen to make the most of this FTTP rollout and opportunity. So I think what we see is that as FTTP rolls out, it creates that opportunity for both any of our customers actually to say, have I got the right provider? Have I got the right services? Is my Wi-Fi set up right? Should I be reviewing other parts of my IT estate, whether that be cloud, telephony, etc. So I think what we're trying to do at Zen is make sure we're supporting both our partners and our direct customers with that transition of technology. So I think I'd say that's certainly the first thing. I think as we've touched on already, making sure that we're ready for this one-touch switching move. I think it's both an opportunity and a bit of a risk as well. So I think the opportunity is it'll be easier to switch between providers. So I think today, if you want to switch from Virgin to Zen, for example, that can be quite difficult and problematic. That'll become easier in a one-touch switching world. Likewise, switching from altnets will become a bit easier. But I think we all need to be alive to the fact that it could create a bit more risk around churn. Making sure we're managing our customers well so that they're aware of the latest technologies, and we don't suddenly find that we're sort of losing more customers. So that's another kind of key one.
Cool. Just a reminder, we do have obviously a live Q&A, so send your questions over. I guess before we just do a last sort of troll through the questions, Steve, bring it back to Zen in terms of what other initiatives are we looking to launch into to our partners in terms of some of the work we're doing regarding sustainability and so on and so forth.
Yeah, so obviously I did a little talk on sustainability at the partner event end of last year, so that remains a key focus area for us. We're very, very keen to help all of our customers actually, whether they're small businesses, enterprise customers, partners. So if you want any insight on the work we're doing at Zen to contribute to the environment and to reduce our impact, then get in touch. I'm very happy to share the journey that Zen's been on over the last sort of 14 years now. We've been at it in terms of that project. A couple of things to share on it that might be of interest to our partners. So I think later this year, Openreach are going to start publishing their carbon emissions across their different broadband products. So you'll be able to see the difference between the emissions on a copper broadband service versus a full fibre service. So one thing that we're planning to do at Zen is to start to label our products, so we can say to customers, if you buy this product, it has a lower emissions than this other product. So that's one area we're looking at. We're doing quite a lot of work around refurbishment of devices. So we're looking at ways we can bring our equipment back in, refurbish that equipment and ship it back out to customers to kind of prevent the need to continue to buy new equipment. Again, happy to share some of those learnings with partners that perhaps also want to take advantage of that. It's great for the planet. It's also great for bottom line as well. You don't have to buy new equipment. You can kind of reuse the equipment that you've already got. So, again, that feels like another interesting area.
Perfect. We've got another question that's come in. It's come from Ollie Denard. Good morning, Ollie. Does the extension of the switch off also apply to ISDN, Andy?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's, as we say, it's primarily about protecting vulnerable customers, but it's not really about the specific products, the extension. So it applies across the board. I would encourage anyone with ISDN though to switch to Zen Cloud Comms or something similar, as the functionality wise it's going to be far superior and probably cost less. But absolutely the same rules apply to the best of our knowledge. Yeah.
I think it's just worth adding as well, Mark, on the December 25 date, so post-December 2025, guidance we've been given from Openreach is that at 3 months' notice, they'll have the option to kind of change the terms of those services. So I do think we all need to be alive to the fact that we could see repair guarantees change, we could see challenges with delivery. I would very much encourage all our partners to be looking again to that December 25 date and not be tempted, I guess, to kind of think, okay, I've got another 11 months. Let's wait a little bit longer.
Yeah, we shouldn't see this as a way of just being able to put things off. It's keep going as quickly as you can safely, and we've got a bit of time extra at the end if we need it. Is the way that we're looking at it, and I think we should encourage everyone to do that. Otherwise, the risk is real if you push it too late.
Sorry, Mark. Just to add, I think we can all probably remember the COVID period where we ended up with restrictions on the amount of orders that could be placed at certain times. So I think again we just need to kind of bear that in mind. I think we could arrive at a place where we see some restrictions around volumes of migrations or numbers of faults that can be raised. That is a possibility. I think the price increases as well will continue, I expect. So we'll have another round of price increases in April 25, a further round of price increases in April 26. So again, there's a real commercial incentive there for us to crack on and not delay.
Absolutely, I'd definitely echo those thoughts. So I'm just looking now. There's no more questions that come in, and we've been live now for about half an hour. So I think it's probably appropriate, Steve, just to come back to yourself around any sort of final thoughts before we close the session.
Yeah, no, thanks, Mark. So firstly, thank you very much for everyone for coming along today and joining the webinar and contributing with the questions as well. Some really great questions there for Andy and I. Hope you've enjoyed it. Really looking forward to giving you another update in August in our next webinar. Just one other signpost for you as well, actually, is that following the last partner event end of last year, we've decided to set up a Women in Tech group for our partner base. So I'm delighted to say that Nicola Brummel from our account management team is leading that initiative. So we're going to be running a webinar at some point over the next 3 to 6 months around that initiative. But in the meantime, if you're interested in getting involved in that forum, then please get in touch with Nicola directly or any of the team that can point you in the right direction. I'm sure she'll be delighted to have some more partners joining the group.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, you won't find anyone more passionate about women in tech than Nicola, and I think we can probably get her into the next session we've got to talk some more about it. But that's it from Zen HQ this morning. I hope you've enjoyed the webinar. There will be a link there to provide direct feedback on this session, so please do that straight after this session ends. And we'll talk soon. Thank you.
Thank you.